who may benefit from doing them? Are they good for everyone or only those with specific deficiencies? The reverse hyper. So the number of people I know with back injuries is probably everyone I know. The reverse hyper, because the load is down on the ankles, you get this nice little, as you start the lift, you get this nice little traction in the back, and then you give a chance to bring it up. In my experience, which is limited, I found that using lighter weights and getting more reps was really made me feel great. When would you do them? In the beginning of the workout, at the end, or maybe as part of the tonic? Yeah, so with Dick Notmeyer, hyperextensions were part of the warm-up because everything, if it wasn't a snatch and a clean and jerk, it wasn't important. We did presses after the snatches and clean and jerks, but everything else was before. I would still probably think, and if you have any kind of leg or back issues, the reverse hyper might be a nice, and you mentioned here in the next part, tonic. It might be a real nice way to get a little blood moving and just do that little check-in. Like if I'm going to do front squats, like I'm front squatting tomorrow, I'll do goblet squats in the warm-up just to kind of check in to see how my squat pattern is. I don't know of too many exercises in the weight room where you're not going to do that movement with your back and whatever, that hingy bend over motion. Now I'm running out of words. Yeah, so I think in the beginning would be nice, but you could also do a nice finisher with it too. It would be weird though if you do high reps with it, because for me, it really pumped up my spinal erectors, so that I always felt like you're in the chair so much taller. And he asked, dynamic or slow and controlled? Now somebody else could argue this, but in my experience, slow and controlled. That doesn't mean that there's not someone listening that says, no, I do them really fast. But for the uses I use them for, slow and controlled. Joe Rogan has spoken highly on his podcast about reverse hypers. Joe Rogan, he was on a TV show called News Radio, and he was like the electrician, and he was like a savant, and that's what I remembered him from. And then years later, somebody told me that he was like some expert on MMA and ultimate fighting and stuff. And I was like, that's the same guy. And I think it's kind of cool in a way. And he became famous. My friend Chuck told me all this. He became famous on a show where they made you like sit in a casket with centipedes or something like that. I don't remember the name of it. But his podcast, and I didn't really know much about his podcast until he interviewed my friend Pavel on it. And it was, I don't know, when I watched it, it looked a little bit like oil and water with the two of them. There's a few friends of mine, and in fact, I got a buddy who has got a great Pavel accent. And every time you mention Pavel, he does, I think Pavel asked for a cup of black tea or something like that. But Joe Rogan's podcast is quite good. It can be quite good. Of course, it's all over the place. It's a podcast. So you never know. But he's a big fan of reverse hypers, and I applaud it. I think it's good. In fact, if someone famous is applauding an exercise like goblet squats, reverse hypers, suitcase carries, going for a walk, I think it's good for everybody. Okay, and I hope that helped. This is a very good. It's a very good question, and I hope you keep doing them, and I hope more people keep doing them, because if they do, the prices will come down on those systems. And I'd like to have my own home reverse hyper. So if you have a lot of money and you want to make me happy, please send me a reverse hyper machine. Thank you.